In a recent study from Northwestern Mutual, more than half of people who identify as Hispanic say they're disciplined financial planners. Advisors are working to educate individuals and families in Hispanic and Latino communities about the importance of financial planning. And to talk all about it, it's a pretty big topic. We have Flory Jerez Villaseñor with Northwestern Mutual in Milwaukee, who's joining us here. A very important conversation. Thank you so much for being here. Let's start off with the why, right? What contributes to economic disparities in Latino households from your experience?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. So I think the biggest opportunity and challenge, honestly, is access to financial education. Oftentimes when I talk to people, they don't know where to begin. They don't know the resources that are available for them. And they don't honestly have a connection or someone in their community who they know and who they can build that trust with in order to talk through some of those things.
And it's hard to ask questions that you don't know what questions you should be asking, right? Like where to start. What about the cultural values? How does that impact whether or not you are having conversations about financial planning?
Yeah, I think one of the values that oftentimes are in many Hispanic households are that there's a lot of intergenerational families out there. So that means that there's some people who are planning for their retirement, but there's also some people who are planning for their education. So oftentimes that piece is missed, where in one household, in one home, there can be multiple generations, and we need to make sure that we're addressing all of those diverse needs.
Now, we said a little bit of a statistic at the beginning of the interview, and that's that 52% of Hispanics identify as disciplined financial planners. For those who maybe are struggling, maybe don't even know where to begin, where do you go for help?
I think it really starts with reaching out to a financial advisor or financial planner. Oftentimes, we are as a Latino community, underbanked. So what that means is that we don't leverage the tools and the different strategies and products that there's out there. And oftentimes we're doing things like cash transactions. So we aren't maximizing compound interest. We aren't maximizing life insurance and the different opportunity and value that there is in leveraging that to launch a business, to access financial education. So there's a lot of things that really come from just education, and the one person that you can really reach out to is a financial advisor and start building trust with that person. And first and foremost, I always say educate, right? So making sure that we're educating ourselves.
In your experience, and when you take a family in, or a couple, or a single person, what has been the one thing that you have seen them kind of struggle with? Is it trust, having a conversation with you? Is it just knowledge, not knowing what to ask?
Yeah, it's exactly trust. So it's always trust and language. So with language, oftentimes I'm seeing first generation immigrants. So they come to this country and they don't necessarily know all the ins and outs of the language, of the different things that they should be asking, like you alluded to earlier. And sometimes even some of the financial terminology gets very overwhelming. So instead of asking for help, we kind of get just overwhelmed and don't want to take that very first step. So that's with language. And I think the other piece is the trust, like you mentioned. Oftentimes we have this perception of financial professionals, and oftentimes we get nervous and overwhelmed and scared, and we'd rather try to do like a DIY, right? Do it yourself. And we don't know enough. We don't have enough education. So it's always about building trust and finding someone that you can have that sense of shared community, and who also has the language so that you can fully understand what it is that you're talking about.
100%. Flory, thank you so much, and thank you for being that person that people are coming in for to get those questions answered, and hopefully guiding them into the right path. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.